Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, and welcome to the August 5th edition of AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. And it's in the year 2020. So welcome. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and we're here today to talk astrology. So I will talk a bit about astrology that's going on now, and mostly probably talk about the upcoming election. So currently we've got a moon in Pisces, and Pisces moons tend to be a bit more about turning inward. Pisces rules the 12th house of the zodiac, which means it's the last house in the zodiac. So for you, it would be, let me see, first house. I'm trying to see if it reverses the video here. First house and second house on the way around, and then it comes back over to here, which is just above the 9 o'clock position on a clock, if you're old school and know how to read an old school analog clock. But anyway, it's the 12th house. And the 12th house means that something is in our subconscious, it's hidden, it's not in our awareness generally. It is subliminal. And so whatever energy comes through that way, it comes out in maybe subconscious ways, unsuspecting ways. It goes on behind the scenes. It is information that may be withheld from us, but ultimately it does come out as planets progress, and they come, and I'll use this chart. This is our election chart. As they progress into the first house, it comes out. Sorry, I have a little itch on my nose. It comes out into the first house, which is the identity and the awareness. It's the ego. It's where we are when we're born. The first house is our self. So even though planets or energies are in Pisces or in subconscious, ultimately they come out and we are aware of them in our conscious life. So that means that currently with the moon in Pisces, that those are the energies we are experiencing right now. We are experiencing more subliminal, emotional energy, things that relate to the home, which is the moon, and security, which is also the moon. But in Pisces, which is letting go and trusting, having faith. I don't know, my hair is getting to me. I think I do this every week. My hair gets right in my eyes and my face, but sorry about that. So anyway, we have this energy of the moon in Pisces, really expressing a deeper emotional sensitive side. So sometimes Cancer, which is the sign of the moon, can pull back so far that the hard shell of the crab, which is the sign of Cancer, is creating that barrier to other people, and the emotions are kept to the self. Neptune and Pisces are a sign and a planet that have a difficult time not expressing something emotional. They're much more forthright with the fact that things are sensitive. People may say, oh, you're too sensitive, which really kind of translates into they're not very sensitive. So Pisces really rules the domain of the subconscious and subliminal energy, and really the psychic realm, the part that the esoteric part of life that most people right now, I don't believe, are really integrating into their lives. That story will hugely change when Neptune gets out of Pisces and we run headlong into Aries energy and really recognize what the difference is. And then, of course, after Pluto gets through Aquarius in about 15 years, we will start to feel more Pisces energy from Pluto, which is going to be really intense and deep. Pluto energy likes to dive deep, and of course Pisces energy is really the unseen and the esoteric realm. So that is going to be a very strong time of deeper spiritual philosophy and immersion, really. But back to today. So just looking at my computer over here, Today we have the moon at 13 Leo. So we have Mercury just overnight at about 11:30 last night, 11:38 I think it was, went into Leo. And so we have Mercury in Leo and Sun in Leo. So really fortunate time for Leos in the zodiac, because Leo is the most fortunate sign of the zodiac. And part of that is just the center of attention, being the larger than life energy, the drama king. And a lot of times fire energy just acts. Um, we know this of Aries and we know it of Sagittarius. They're acting fire signs, but Leo is more a pulpit kind of sign. They like to get up on the pulpit and expand the consciousness of other people, or they like to be the center of attention. So it isn't as much the classic fire sign drive to move. It's much more about drama. And so we see a lot of that drama coming in, but it is the, I guess you would say, cradle of the fire sign. So you have the initiating energy of kind of the baby energy, which is Aries. You have Sagittarius fire energy, which is the spiritual growth sign. And then you have the in-between, which is really where we have one-on-one issues and energy, where we learn about each other one-on-one. And so that's more where we can see the connection to other people and how Leo really translates in our relationships. And it rules creativity, it rules children. So we see those topics coming out. So we'll see gambling, which, like I said, it rules. Very fortunate. My father's a Leo. He's been doing scratch off tickets for the last few weeks. He's been on such a good winning streak this past week and a half since the sun has been in Leo. And now that Mercury's there, I expect that it's going to get even better. And so I'm kind of excited to see how that works out. We got a lot of Leo in my family. Like I told you, my son's birthday is actually tomorrow, and my dad's is next week. So it's really a strong energy around that attention-getting, dramatic king of the jungle, the Leo king. Anyway, we've got Mercury just into Leo, like I said, and Venus is at 28 degrees. Let me double check. Yeah, 28 degrees of Cancer. And, or excuse me, Gemini, about to go into Cancer. And let's see when she goes in. She goes in a couple days. I think it's this weekend, actually. So we're just going to look it up in our little ephemera sitting right here in front of me. La, 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 la. Well, I don't see it day by day. I might have to look it up in the back ephemeris. Oh, there it is. Okay, so Venus goes into Cancer Friday, August 7th at 11:21 a.m. Eastern, 8:21 a.m. Pacific. And so having Venus, remember, Venus is the goddess of love. She is beauty. She is aesthetics. She is money. She is growing things. And she's at the last degrees conjunct, meaning, whoa, sorry about that, right next to North Node. So is a very fortunate time. Women and their energy and wrapping up a story about the duality, the two sides of something. My sister is a Gemini energy, so definitely she'll be affected by this. It's wrapping up a story around duality and possibly polarity. The North Node is where we have our fortune and what lessons we need to learn through transmutation of energy of the South Node. So right now, South Node is at 28 of Sagittarius. So it's bringing in a spiritual connection. It's bringing in, excuse me, the desire for growth and travel and meeting new people. It's also immigrants. It's musicians. I think I list this list every time. It's just kind of quintessentially the energy of that particular sign. It can be horses, it can be education, teachers, it can be spiritual leaders. There are a lot of other energies that are ruled under Jupiter, under Sagittarius. But that's the domain that we will see with this energy. And so North Node in Gemini is about short distance travel, and it's about education on an elementary level. It's about small animals and transportation, modes of transportation, appliances, electronics, technology, local weather, things like that. So any of those can be affected. And then Venus is about the beauty, the aesthetics of whatever house she falls in. So I'm doing a now chart. I always call it a now chart, which means it's what's going on now. And here in Orlando, we've got Venus conjunct the North Node in the Sagittarius house of travel and long distance travel. So, you know, if that's where it falls in your chart, and it's just so transient. That's the thing with astrology and trying to, you know, make one horoscope for everyone. You really need to know how a person's chart is laid out. So let me give you this bit of advice, and I've said it before, but for those who are new, if you read your rising sign, so hopefully you know what time you were born, you can find out the rising sign. I believe I have a rising sign option on my website. I think I've still left that there. I'm in the process of renovating my website a little bit. And so I think I left the rising sign. Just go up under the menu tab and you can find it by putting in your information or looking at the table. I think I've created a table for it or posted the table. Once you know your rising sign, read that in the horoscopes. That's going to be the setup of where the planets transit your particular chart every time you read the horoscope. And it'll be much more accurate. Yes, you can read the sun. Yes, you can read the moon, but the rising sign is going to be quintessentially the most accurate for what events will be affecting you in a horoscope. Okay, I'm gonna race through the rest of this because I want to talk about the election and oops. And so we'll find out a little bit more about that. It's going to be really interesting. Not going to get. So we've got Uranus at 10 degrees of Taurus right now. He's getting ready to go into his shadow. He turns retrograde fairly soon here. He goes retrograde on the 14th of August, so on my dad's birthday. And so we will be feeling the Uranus energy. So it's about power, personal control, autonomy, entrepreneurship. A butterfly just flew by my window, so pretty. And he's about really how do we have personal power and what are we doing in our own energy. He's also in Taurus. So Taurus energy is about growth. As I said, it's ruled by Venus. So it's love, money, growth, and where we get together with other people, you know, how we become a couple in a relationship. And so when he goes retrograde, we start to see these energies popping up. I think it's going to start to be a wild ride with the stock market because, of course, it's money and it's Uranus, which means the unexpected. That could mean rallies. It could mean selling off of stocks, and it is tech. It's interesting because as we approach this energy, as we get to the shadow, we do start to see events that relate specifically to this energy. And last week's basic grilling of all of the big tech company heads in Washington is quintessentially Uranus and Taurus about to go retrograde. So as Uranus retrogrades, he's going to go back over the energy and check out the domain. You know, what's going on? What is the alternate? What areas do we have to go and adjust? And so we'll see that within that domain, within that Taurus realm, Uranus is saying, okay, I really want freedom as he goes forward. He doesn't want to be told what to do. He wants his own business. He wants to have freedom from control. Uranus goes retrograde in Taurus. You're going to be reviewing the control. You're going to be seeing where the control issues are or who has power and what we should do about it. And I can guarantee you by the time Uranus is done with Taurus, he's going to have renovated the technology realm because it's about having freedom and it's also about freedom around money. And he's going to bring in electronic money. He's going to try and have more power in the technological realm. Hang on one second. Sorry, just had a little tickle. Anyway, yeah, so he's going to be going retrograde and really, honestly, I think they're going to be digging their heels in with the tech companies and really starting to renovate how they're controlled. Would not surprise me if they got broken up by the end of all this because, again, Uranus is about multiples. And so while Capricorn is about one large entity with roots like the old oak tree and the roots going down, Uranus is about air, it's about winds of change, it's about the ability to change, and it's about multiples. So we are going to see definitely multiple areas being affected or multiple businesses broken up or making multiples out of a business. So anything with more than one. It is also the energy of adoption and mental health. So Uranus rules adoption and mental health in astrology and LGBTQ. So any of those areas can be affected as well. You can see, I mean, I'm just telling you kind of what's coming up in the news potentially, that you're going to see stories on LGBT, you know, the rights they got, the rights that may be taken away, you know, with this administration. Taurus is very, what's the word? Tenacious. So Taurus, tenacious Taurus, and they will stick with things. They're very tenacious about things that are stable and always the way they've been, kind of like Capricorn, kind of like Virgo. They don't want things to change once they've figured out how to make them the way they want. So it's going to be interesting seeing some of the changes that come and then how we integrate and review, which is what we're about to approach through the end of the year and into next year. We're going to review technology, new methods, things that we've done online. That's potentially the pushback of education, making money. Well, so this is the thing. Uranus has been direct since earlier in the year, and I think it was April. Let me look it up real quick. Even earlier, Uranus went direct just after January, which is right around the time Corona started coming in. So the whole time coronavirus has been, or COVID, probably get flagged on this, but I don't care. You know, people can't not talk about it, right? So anyway, when all this came in, then that's when Uranus went direct. So the whole time Uranus has been direct, we've had this pandemic. Then now he goes retrograde, and it is about the technology and the body, because Taurus rules the body. So we're going to see the technology as it relates to maybe finding a solution, finding a cure, finding a vaccine or whatever. Probably not a cure, but you know, we're going to be reviewing what we've done in science, which is also Uranus's realm. Okay, I'm just going to look over here real quick and see a couple things. We still have Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn at 19, 23, and 27 of Capricorn. And so we're still dealing with that cluster of planets in late Capricorn. We will be talking about that as I do the election chart. And then the moon is in Neptune and, moon is in Pisces and Neptune is in Pisces. And he's at 20 degrees retrograde. He's fairly recently retrograde. And so he's still kind of digging his feet in. Maybe Neptune should be a she. Why do we call Neptune a he? That's very curious. June. So he's really only been, what, about a month, little over a month retrograde. And he lasts retrograde for a good long time. He won't turn direct until later in the year again also. And I will tell you, he's direct in late November, right after Thanksgiving in America. So he's really churning up more clarity on things, he's much more practical in retrograde. So we've discussed that in the recent past. I'm not going to get back into that again. And he's square to Venus, just at the last degree of square. They're about an orb of 8-degree wide square. So it's just passing away. So that may mean that, that means that women having stress over making an ideal vision for their lives come true, or even standing up for themselves. Of course, having late degree Venus means a culmination of feminine energy in the Gemini realm. So she's been saying, hey, there are women's issues that we need to address here. And then it's a duality of her storyline. So is it right? Is it wrong? Is it truthful? Is it untruthful? What is real about what we desire? And that comes out in our charts too. So look up your chart or get a reading from me, because I will look it up for you. And you can do that at angeliczodiac.com. Okay, so we're going to move on from that. And what we're going to do, and it's going to be tight getting this all in, but what I'll do is I'll kind of show you, maybe even I'll post this. I really need to do a blog on this on my website. But let's see. Okay, I've got 3 different charts here for you. And I don't know why this is probably my daughter and her camera on her computer. So we're just going to clean you up there. Not quite as foggy. I think she puts fingerprints all over it. So anyway, we've got the polls opening, which I always do an election day polls opening for the beginning of the day, which is 7 a.m. when the polls open in Washington, D.C., because that's the capital. So 7 a.m., November 3rd, 2020. And if you see, this is what the chart is. Start here. And I've got a lot of rustling of paper, I understand. The sun is in Scorpio, which of course it always is on the election day, but it's just above the horizon, which means it's rising and it's coming up into public awareness, okay? Below the horizon, it's how we deal with it individually, and above the horizon is the collective. Mercury at 25 degrees of Libra, and I'm just trying to see, this is a reverse for you. I apologize. I don't think there's a way. Let me see if there's a way to show you. I don't see any option, yeah, on how to show you anything. And I don't even have the option to show you a desktop, or I could potentially bring that in off of my daughter's computer, but I'm not familiar with this computer that much. So anyway, we'll just have to do it this way. I apologize. But for those listening, it should be fairly clear, and those watching, you're going to have to just pretend this is an opposite chart. So we've got Mercury coming up on the horizon, and I wish, could you see it? You can't see it that way. And so we're aware of the balance of things, but it's retrograde. And let me tell you, the day of the election, Mercury goes direct. So let's just look that up for you real quick here. I think it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I've got, this is my day for November 3rd. Those are the notes. Actually, I hadn't even looked at this until just now, recently, but it goes direct at 12:50 p.m. Eastern and 9:50 p.m. Pacific. And what that means is when it shifts direction, it shifts our mentality. It shifts how we vote. It may shift, for those who are undecided, it can potentially shift how we vote. And so it's our cognizance. In this chart, it's up here in the 11th house, or 12th house, excuse me, in the subconscious. So we're trying to balance it. We want balance. We want cooperation. Libra is the sign of the social worker. It is about who is in need of help. So in some regard, this is about the collective, and are we getting the help we need? When it goes direct, so there's been a cogitation, a consideration of where we've been, and that's leading up to this election. And I apologize again. I don't know why my nose always gives me trouble here when this is probably spirit always tickles your nose when you're telling something important. So we've got the Libra energy, which is society, and we've got Mercury, which is how we think. So society is trying to balance things, and it's in the subconscious. So it is going to have an actual real strong effect on our psyche this election day. And then it's squaring to all of the Capricorn planets, which is authority. But you'll notice in this chart, they're all direct. By November 3rd, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn will be going in the forward motion, which means they are wrapping up an old story around authority, around the subconscious. Again, I've mentioned in the past, Pluto is digging up the dirt of our psyche. It's the dark side. It's our shadow side. And we've got our subconscious and our spiritual side squaring authority as it's wrapping up the energy. So we're kind of at odds with the collective, well, not even the collective, with authority figures. And we have the potential, it is an air sign, Libra's an air sign, there's a potential for an upset, but at the same time, the alternating direction of Mercury is going to shift things. And what I see, it's kind of all over this chart, is Moon's in Gemini, and it's conjunct the North Node in Gemini, which means 2, duality. And Libra is also balanced the scales, 2 things balancing, with a fulcrum in the middle, which is the referee or the judge, trying to balance the scales of justice. So I've got chills with this. I absolutely believe that there is going to be kind of a a legal battle for the winner. That's the way I see it. Venus is also in Libra. So Venus at 7 degrees Libra at that time, but she is in the Aquarius house, which means the desire for social change and the people is paramount in the minds, that there is a need for balance and a need for equality and justice. That's what Libra is. And it's trine to the moon. So throughout the day, the moon will be in trine to Venus, which is considered a positive energy, but I do believe that there is going to be strife that comes from this particular aspect. And the moon is usually an indicator of what goes on with an outcome. In horary astrology, it is a very strong indicator. So what is going on with the moon? Well, the sun's in Scorpio. Now, being a Scorpio rising, and not only that, it's at 11 degrees, which is 1 degree off of my 12-degree moon in Scorpio. So the sun is ego, but it's in Pluto's sign of Scorpio. And so, of course, that always rules elections. It's always about, and probably negatively has affected elections over time, because there's so much mudslinging, so much, we're going to dig up dirt on our opponent and throw it out at them. And so there's a lot of, that kind of energy in the elections of president, particularly because it's always the first week of November. And then we have the South Node in Sagittarius, which is bringing out the hidden. It's wanting to say what they found. Scorpio says, this is what I see from, the dark shadow side, and the North and South Node is saying, yeah, let's throw that out there and see what people say. So I'm just trying to see what the aspects are here. Mars is in Aries in conjunct to the sun. So the sun is the collective ego or central identity where the sun shines. Like, for some reason, where the sun don't shine, put it where the sun don't shine just came into my head. So there is going to be some covert action taken, because the sun, the brightest light in the heavens, is shining on the darkest part. So we're going to see stuff come out, but look at that. It's in the 12th house of the hidden. It just comes up over the horizon. This is the collective consciousness. And what else? I will say that Trump has a late degree Pluto and Leo, which will square Scorpio in the first house. And since it's a Scorpio rising, it's squaring his ego. That didn't seem to do much damage last election, apparently. But what I did notice when I was reading this before, actually, it was another one. So this is the election day and the polls opening and the polls closing. And so what happens here is the polls open in Washington, D.C. They close, the last poll closes at 6 p.m. in Honolulu or Hawaii, the whole state of Hawaii. And so what we have is the moon begins the day in cooperation with other people, like saying a balance, Libra house. It ends the day in the Scorpio house. So it means that there's going to be duality and there are going to be legalities. And I do anticipate this election for president going to the courts. I don't know how that's going to work, because basically that means you're letting the courts decide. And that comes down to individuals. So there you go. Mars and Aries. Let me just look at the individual chart for Mars and Aries, because there was also something else. There was some kind of foreign energy I thought I saw in this. Maybe I was mistaken. Anyway, Mars is in conjunct. Oh, okay. So there's a finger of God aspect. You can see it this way. Finger of God is sextile between planets, each of those planets in conjunct or quincunx to another, which in this case is the moon. I mean, the sun. Ugh, I don't know. I can't get my mouth to say what my mind's thinking. So yeah, Mars, moon, sun. The sun, ego, is at the apex and he has the power. So Mars is contention, upheaval, anger. There's going to definitely be some anger on either side, probably either side, whoever wins. Moon, home and duality and then Scorpio. But Scorpio, in its negative sense, is the mudslinging, is the legal issues, is going for the jugular, cutting and running. Scorpio in its higher energy is about fairness and justice. So we can only hope that the higher form of sun in Scorpio wins out. And like I said, it's 1 degree off of my personal moon. So I feel like I kind of know this energy, and I can tell you, at least from my chart, it's about justice and it's about righteousness for the people. So Scorpio comes into the second house of a Libra rising, which means it's the materiality or manifestation of the Libra energy, which again is social in its higher form. Libra is about justice and equality and balance and diplomacy. And in its lower form, it's indecisive, it can't make up its mind, it's swayed by other factions that it's around. So, and it can analyze itself to death. So it's going to be interesting to see what manifests out on this day. I think having, let me see, the beginning of the day, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn will be in the 3rd house of communications. So it's going to be about the authority figures talking. And interestingly enough, they're in the house ruled by Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, up in the 12th house of the subconscious and in Libra. So there are, you know, we have a 2-party system basically in this country right now. And so it is a battle for the soul based on that. The beauty of it is, astrologically, the sun in Scorpio is very decisive. So having the sun in Scorpio will be a deciding factor. But ultimately, I want to say, because the sun is just above the horizon, close to the ego and the sense of self, I would like to believe that if there's a judge that decides it, they will be in alignment with the subconscious of the people, because it is falling what would be, as you go around the zodiac, the last degree before planets transit. If they are transiting forward, they're transiting into the 1st house. But because we rotate in this way, the planets, from our perspective, appear to go backwards, but they're really moving forward this way. I know, it's very confusing, isn't it? Anyway, we are kind of running out of time here. So let me just look at my chart, and I don't know if that even helped. Did that even help anybody understand what's going on with the election? If you want me to call the election, the best I can do, honestly, is say that it's going to be contentious and it's going to be split. And even though the polls now show one candidate ahead of the other, shenanigans could change that. And that means that you may not get what you think you're getting, at least initially. Like I said, the polls close with the moon up here in the house of Scorpio, and that says it's going to be a judge's choice or some type of deciding body. So yeah, it'd be interesting to come back and watch this again after the election, huh? So we're in November. I just want to double check what's coming up early next week before my next podcast. And I wanted to also encourage you, I don't know, I think I mentioned this last week, but if I didn't, I have a Patreon page. It's Astro Shelley, I believe. Oh, I should know that, shouldn't I? Try Angelic Zodiac or Astro Shelley. I think it's Astro Shelley. But anyway, the link is on my angeliczodiac.com page, and you can get everything that I do through that page. If you have missed an episode, I put them up there. I've got the video attached link there. I've got all of my social media on my website. So that's probably the best place to go. And coming up next week, we've got Monday is a fairly strong day about ego. We've got Mercury squaring Uranus on Monday. And of course, every time Mercury squares Uranus, what do? You get technology issues, because there's a battle for control over the electronics. So look for that. It's also miscommunications, blackouts for large quantities of people, or internet problems, things like that, because it's small electronic energy squaring big electronic energy, like that. One up here, one down there. So, okay. Anyway, that's all for this week. I think we can make it through there until Wednesday of next week. And I'm just double checking to see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. There's an inconjunct between Sun and Jupiter on Tuesday of next week. So that is Sun in Leo is definitely ego of authority or somebody who wants the spotlight. I won't name names. In negative aspect to Jupiter, which is tradition and spirituality. So this is something where a person in charge could be at odds with the religious groups that are out there, or a spiritual ideology, that there's one person wanting attention that is not getting along with religious ideology, or also it could mean immigrants or the status of immigrants. I will tell you this too, though. You know, I just read this morning that the polls that they show, immigrants they don't want them to come in the country right now, but only because of coronavirus or COVID. So because of that, they said that the country agrees with Trump. And I just want to say, they agree that we shouldn't have foreign people in bringing in a disease. And because of that, the crops, you know, migrant workers, they're not going to be picking crops. So let me tell you, people, you need to get your food bank ready. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be that bad until probably around September through December. But as we build towards the end of the year, that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December is a very straight up clamping down on education and travel. So we're going to probably be online then. And I don't know how long it lasts. We need to look into next year. I haven't done that yet. Usually I do that towards the fourth quarter of the year, because that's a big show for the end of the year. But okay, that's all. I'm out. You can go about your day. And I hope you have a good week. Please do wear your masks. Wear them all the way up over your nose, because if your nose is hanging out, all the germs are coming out too. And be nice to your fellow people. Okay, take care. And I'll see you next week. Like, comment, subscribe below if you're watching on YouTube. Bye.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.